to own it. Just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now it's such a mess here. Oh, we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you.
Thank you so much for coming on my show today.
Thank you for having me, Sparkle.
So tell our viewers who you are and what you do.
I'm Jared Gordon, and I'm an attorney here in Fresno. I do business law with an emphasis on technology, internet law, and privacy. But I help all kinds of clients in the business world here in Fresno and throughout the state.
Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on that we just don't know about with the different laws. Can you explain some of that for us?
Yes, well, I mean, there's been so many changes in the law, as there are really every year, and especially when Sacramento's in session. But I thought I'd actually talk today maybe about a few propositions that the voters get to decide on. And I'm going to just do a little quick disclaimer that these are just my personal opinions. They're not the opinions of any of my clients. And although I am the Chamber of Commerce Governmental Affairs Committee Chair, these are not the official positions of the Chamber. But thought I'd share just some things.
You're going to tell us what the props are.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you what the props.
That's not your opinion. That's facts.
Right. So I'm going to tell you about the propositions. I will tell you my opinion on them.
That's fine. But yeah,
but I'm going to tell you about them first, and let your voters make up their, and let your viewers make up their own mind as voters.
The problem is, I just noticed that people are not voting like they used to be. I mean, the numbers are really dropping of just people voting in general. And do you think it's because there's just so many props that we just don't understand, that people are just getting thrown off, and it's just become too much work? Why are we not voting like we should be?
So I think it depends a lot on what kind of election it is. So the presidential elections have drawn a lot of voters. Actually, nationally, participation's up. Statewide, participation's up against lower numbers.
It's our local. It's our little local.
Yeah, local.
Nobody's going out for the important ones.
People are right, and local is really what propositions and local elections are what mostly people can affect.
Yeah.
So
I hear about what's happening in my backyard than what's happening, in Washington.
That's right. It matters much more to most people whether our potholes get filled in by the cities that they live in, and whether their garbage gets picked up, than what crazy things Sacramento's doing. And frankly, all of the city of Fresno could vote differently. All of the Central Valley could vote differently, and sometimes does, than what LA and the Bay Area do. And LA and the Bay Area would just make the rules anyway. And so that's the reality of living in California, is that sometimes we have laws dictated to us from outside. Sometimes there's not a lot we can do about what the state legislature does. But when it comes to propositions, there are things that we can do, and at the very least, we can vote the way that we feel like. So I thought it would be helpful to your viewers just to talk about some of those propositions.
Yeah, for sure.
What they are, and they can kind of make up their own minds.
I'm so excited.
I'll share a little bit about it, and you can tell me what you think about it.
I'm excited because I always have questions, and I'm glad there's somebody here I can ask now.
So the first one is, in many ways, the easiest to understand, but the hardest to talk about. That's Proposition 1. Proposition 1 is a constitutional amendment that the legislature has put forward, and it's the abortion amendment, essentially. It's an amendment that I think it's titled Reproductive Freedom, but the idea is essentially that if it's approved, then the right to have an abortion goes into the California Constitution, and if it's not approved, then there isn't a change to the current law.
Okay.
So it's really simple as that. I will say that the one thing that I think adds some complexity for your viewers to think about is that if you want something different than sort of, abortion at any time during a pregnancy, then you might want to consider voting against this, only because it will limit what the legislature could do in the future in terms of a law that had more restrictions, but not completely restricting abortion. And if I can explain that just a little bit more.
I would love for you to explain that.
Sure. So in our country, a lot of times politicians talk about abortion being an all or nothing kind of thing.
Right.
Right. It's all, you're pro-life, you're pro-choice, and that either means that you believe in abortion all the time up until the moment of birth, maybe for some people even, and in politics anyway. And then some people, pro-life people, are often no abortions in any circumstances with no exceptions. As it turns out, the public polling data does not suggest that that's what most people believe. Most people believe something in the middle.
Right.
They believe that you should have restrictions at some point in pregnancy and maybe prohibition at some point in pregnancy, usually before what law pre-Roe versus Wade being overturned by the Supreme Court set, and then they believe in exceptions after that. So there are states that have laws like that. If California wanted to adopt a law like that, however, if this amendment passed, that would not be allowed. So for example, if you think that the right answer on abortion as a matter of policy or philosophy or whatever is that there should be no abortions after 15 weeks or after the second trimester, both of those potentially would be not things that the legislature could pass in the future if this amendment were to go into effect.
And so, where do you vote when you are in the middle ground?
Well, I think the right answer is that you should vote no. It will not change the current law, so California will still have very open abortion availability if that's something you care about, but it will allow the legislature in the future to adopt a potential compromise. But then you have to convince legislators in Sacramento to do that.
How tricky.
Yes. This is, the crazy thing about the Dobbs decision, which is the name of the Supreme Court decision that overturned Roe versus Wade, and really more accurately, another later decision, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, that sort of set the law for abortion for almost 50 years in the United States, is that now abortion went from being a constitutional subject that lawyers argued about and judges decided on to a political decision. And all the states had to figure out what to do now. And so this is some legislators' efforts at figuring out what California should do. It's not the only thing that California legislators did this term, but it is one of the things that the voters at least get to decide upon. And other states are going very differently. I mean, obviously Texas made it almost completely illegal, and in addition to that, it has their crazy bounty law that allows you to sue people for participating in abortion. There's some other states that are trying to ban even FDA-approved medication to bring about abortion, which on a legal level, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know that they have the power to do that under federal law.
Wow.
But those kinds of complexities are going to get ironed out by the courts. They won't get ironed out very much here if this proposition passes.
This seems like this is going to take years to even get
it will.
fine-tuned to where what
Yes.
you say, like for the last 50 years, something like this. It seems like we're going to be like in battle with this until we figure out what this is going to be for a while.
I think it's reasonable to expect maybe for the next 10 years people will be debating abortion throughout the country, and different states will fall into different levels of restriction. Some states will ban it entirely. Not all the states you expect, and then some states will be very free about it, including, I'm sure, California.
Wow.
But Kansas, in an election earlier this year, they, even though Kansas is one of the most conservative states in the country socially, they did not support an amendment, or proposition anyway, a state level vote that would have prohibited abortion with, I think, essentially no exceptions. So even though that's a state where you might expect that to pass, it didn't.
Wow.
So that's a very complicated political issue, and used to be a complicated legal issue, and now, in a sense, isn't, which is good for lawyers who don't want to litigate that, I suppose.
What's our next one?
So the next one is Proposition 26. And Proposition 26, you can kind of think on a shorthand level, allows a whole bunch of new kinds of gambling at Indian tribal casinos, including sports betting. So it allows some other things too, like dice games and roulette and other games of chance like you'd see in Las Vegas. But it also allows sports betting in tribal casinos only. Now, I think that's one part of it. One of the strange little side things that the proponents put in there, and I think, for me, the most concerning part, is that there's a provision that allows anyone to go after casinos and card rooms that they don't think are complying with state law.
Okay.
And the reason why this is concerning is that if you are a casino and you want to try and put your smaller card room competitors in your area out of business, you go after them for compliance violations. We see this kind of thing in business law all the time. It's a way to legally get rid of your competitors. And I think that provision was added to this law, essentially to do that to card rooms. So for a card room like the 500 Club or Club One Casino here in Fresno, I know that's a very real concern, and they've expressed that concern.
So if they get to go in the private rooms and do that.
Well, so in Club One, I mean, you could go and just play poker or blackjack right now. The difference would be that if they make some mistake in how they handle that legally. I'm not an expert in the way that the state regulates legal card rooms, but if they do make a mistake, if this proposition were to pass, then the tribal casinos could essentially send people to go monitor that, and then report them or just sue them directly, and try to shut them down through essentially frivolous litigation.
So where do you stand on this?
So in general, I like gambling, and I think as a fun form of entertainment, I have no objection to it. I am against this proposition only because of this private attorney general provision that allows essentially anyone, but really effectively the existing big tribal casinos to go after the card rooms. I just don't think that that's a good, fair way to do business. People should compete on their merits, and there's more than enough room for everyone to participate in gambling who's licensed and can provide that entertainment. And we don't need to try to sue people out of the business. So, and I will say, I don't think there's any reason to think that our local tribes have wanted to do that. This is an issue mostly in Southern California, where the local tribes down there have actively gone against some of the card rooms down there, like the Commerce Casino card room.
Wow, okay.
But I just don't think that that's a good way to do things, which is unfortunate because I think in many ways, had that provision not been in this proposition, I would have been personally in favor of it. I think a lot of people are in favor, would be in favor of it. And I think in general, California has been somewhat wise to kind of restrict where gambling goes on, and it makes some sense to do it with tribal casinos.
Right.
So Proposition 27 is the second gambling proposition. We've got two.
This is going to be so confusing. This
it
is.
is.
We were going to get
it's very confusing.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's
It's
hear
very
this
confusing. So the second one, this is for online sports wagering. This is really straightforward.
Well, this goes for what everyone's doing right now. So okay.
Yeah. So it's sponsored essentially and paid for by FanDuel and one of the other big online fantasy sports companies. So they want to be able to do online sports books and allow people to directly bet on the outcome of games, which is currently illegal under state law. In California, they're doing the same kind of thing, similar initiatives in other states. It's essentially about legalizing both fantasy gaming, mostly fantasy football, and direct sports betting on the outcome of games.
Okay.
So, well, I think there's some benefit to doing that because people do those sorts of bets, and now some of it goes to organized crime, and at the very least is outside of the legal system, and that can always pose dangers in the way that people enforce bets. The concern that I have with this initiative is really that, at least as of right now, there's not really much in the way of local, meaning even in California, businesses that are participating on the online betting side. So, although California is in many ways the king of tech among states, that's just not something we do because it's been illegal in our state. So if we pass this, there's a 10% tax on all the profits that get generated by these businesses, but that means that 90% of the sports wager difference, essentially the excess revenue they make after payouts, is going to go out of state. And that is maybe not the best thing for California. I will say,
because you want to keep your money.
I mean, normally for
Okay.
as for Californians, it would be better to support something that was going to at least probably keep the money more local.
Okay.
I will say that the money that does come out, some of that gets put into a fund to help homeless people. I don't know that throwing money at the homeless is and the problem of the homeless is necessarily a problem, or not a solution. In particular, the Bay Area and LA have thrown literally billions of dollars in tax money at their problems, and they've only gotten worse. Los Angeles has a ballot initiative that they passed, I think in 2020, that's raised over $1 billion, and they have built hardly any affordable homes, and the problem has literally gotten worse, because the problem in Los Angeles is not building affordable housing by the government. The problem in Los Angeles is that they don't have enough housing, period, and it's too expensive. And then there are also a lot of mentally ill people and drug addicted people. So San Francisco has much the same problem, and they've thrown lots of money at it too.
So we should say no to both of the casino props?
That's what I would say. I would say that they both have flaws and are both not ideal, which is unfortunate, because I think it would be good for California to legalize sports betting in some fashion. I just don't think that either of these are the right way to do it.
So no for everything so far we've gotten, right?
I mean, I guess that would be my view.
Yeah,
yes,
no,
that's right.
It gets confusing where it's like, once I understand the prop, then I'm like, okay, what does yes and no mean?
And before we get to our next proposition, maybe I should say that one of the best ground rules you could have in voting for propositions is to vote no on all of them.
Really? Okay,
Yes.
so why is that? Please tell us why.
Because if you vote no on them, then nothing will change most of the time. No preserves the status quo. So if you vote no, things aren't going to get worse. They might not get better, but if you don't actually know, don't want to take the time to figure it out, it's easier and safer to just vote no.
When in doubt, put no. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
I love hearing this stuff. I mean, everyone gets to make up their own mind, but it's really important to know.
Yes.
Because I worry about that all the time with the yes or no. Once I fully understand the prop, I still don't know what I'm saying yes or no to.
And our last one, it'll be even worse.
Okay. Gosh.
So our next one is Prop 28. So Prop 28 is about specifying a certain amount of funding. I think it's 1% of money that goes to schools has to be spent on the arts and music.
Okay.
All right. So I think this is something that people who really believe in the arts and music, they might want to support. My personal view is that it's never really that good for the voters to do the ballot budgeting, where we sort of set aside particular money. We should let the legislature and local school districts do that in the case of schools. I don't necessarily know that 1% is the right amount to spend on the arts in Fresno Unified.
So saying that's almost limiting.
It does tend to do that also.
So
That's
if you do like
right.
the arts and stuff, you might not want to do that.
Yeah, if you think it should be 2%, if the state requires that 1% gets spent, it'll almost always be stuck at 1%.
But each school is different. I mean, some schools are known for their arts, some schools are known for sports. So it's a really, really weird thing.
This is, I think, in aggregate across the school district, and there is some additional funding that goes to poorer schools. It's more complex than that, as school funding initiatives almost always are. But just boiling it down, it is essentially a question of, do you think that there should be a requirement that the schools spend money on art and music? I think both of those are great things, and schools absolutely should spend money on them, but should it be put in at a particular amount in law? That's really the question that you have to answer. My personal view is no, but I would respect people going the other direction on it.
Okay, now we're going to nitty gritty. No, I like this. This is really good.
Prop 29. Prop 29 is essentially an initiative that requires there to be a physician at kidney dialysis centers, and it has some other requirements for kidney dialysis centers.
So when you're going for a kidney transplant, or when you're in transition?
Not transplant, but treatment, yeah. So this is before you get a transplant. If you have kidney problems, you get kidney dialysis.
But usually you go on dialysis because you're awaiting a new kidney, correct?
Yeah, that's one. I mean, you could have just an injury to your kidney that gets better, but yes, that's right. So you would go to a kidney dialysis center and get treatment normally.
Okay.
So this initiative wants to impose a bunch of new costs and add a physician on staff that has to be there in person supervising it at all times, and they won't actually do anything other than supervise it, because you don't need a physician to run these centers.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what the law, the proposed law is in the proposition. Here's what it's really about. It's really about a union, the SEIU, and their healthcare workers sub-union that has been trying to unionize the state's biggest dialysis network, it's also the country's biggest dialysis network, DaVita, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay.
And they've tried twice before with different initiatives to impose costs on them and to make it basically difficult for them to operate unless they unionize. This is their third attempt at it. They just have some kind of vendetta at this point. It's, I think, kind of ridiculous. I will tell you that people will die if Prop 29 passes.
Because why? Can you just go a little
Yes.
bit more? Why will people die?
It's straightforward, actually.
Okay.
So the reason that people will die if Prop 29 passes is that the costs for running a kidney dialysis center are going to go way up. Some of them will go out of business.
Because they need somebody there. So it's gonna,
That's right. You have to have a physician.
Yeah.
Physicians cost, at
Right.
least $150,000, $200,000.
And then you might be on a huge waiting list because there might not be one available.
That's
when
right.
You need that. Okay.
That's right. So
Got
you're
it.
gonna
we're on the same page.
They're going to go out of business. Some people won't be able to reach kidney dialysis centers. There'll be more of a wait time to get kidney dialysis, and people will die from that. This union power play will kill people if it passes.
Oh my goodness.
So, I'm not quite as emphatic about some of these other ones, but this one I just think is horrible. There's nothing really redeeming about it. It's just a political power play by the union. And Prop 30 is also a political power play, but by a business this time.
Okay.
Okay. So in this case, Lyft is almost the entire funder for Prop 30. And what Prop 30 does is it imposes a personal income tax increase on people who make over $2 million in California. And most of that money then goes to help pay for electric cars and subsidize electric cars in California. And most of the rest of it goes to pay for wildfire prevention. So
if you make over $2 million
then
before at what point, like net worth?
No, it's not net worth. So income, $2 million in income.
Okay,
Then
that before taxes and everything.
Yeah, $2 million before taxes.
Okay.
Then they increase your taxes. It would then make California the highest income tax in the country on people who are over $2 million. It's a pretty substantial increase.
Do we know the percentage on that?
Yeah, 1.75%.
1.75%
increase.
people. But
Yeah.
no,
How many
percentage
people?
Of how many people are over the two?
It's not a very large percent of people that earn over $2 million.
Right.
Even in California. But here's the crazy thing about California's tax system. Our tax system is already so heavily weighted to the richest people with the highest incomes that in a typical year, if I'm remembering this correctly, about half of California's income tax comes from the top 100 wealthiest families in the state.
That makes sense.
And that means if someone like Elon Musk moves out, which he did, you can see a material impact to the state's income taxes. This is just going to increase the number of people who want to leave, who are wealthy and are capable of, moving. They have all the resources in the world essentially to move.
But that's because we're still going at the lower wealth. So even though it's a small percentage, there's still a massive,
right. So it's a small number of people, but they have disproportionately large incomes, and they will likely want to move if you keep increasing taxes on them. But more importantly here, I think, is the sort of rationale for this. This is really Lyft trying to buy an initiative because they thought it would be cheaper to fund an initiative and get it passed to get subsidies for themselves in order to not have to convert all of their electric car, or convert all of the drivers' cars who use
so this
their
is
service.
the service. Like
Yes.
we're talking about the LYFT.
Yeah, LYFT.
Okay. That's what I
Yes.
thought. And then I'm
Right.
like, what? Okay, now
So-
I completely. Where do the wildfires come into? To get,
This is just part of their trying to sell the climate prevention thing.
now I get it. Okay.
I mean, wildfires actually do produce more carbon dioxide emissions and greenhouse gas emissions than cars do in California.
Mm-hmm.
So it does actually make sense to tackle wildfires as part of reducing carbon emissions. But in this case, this is really just Lyft trying to pay for their business expense that they're going to have to incur because of rules, I think, set by the California Air Resources Board.
So even though it seems like an environmental law,
Yes, that's right.
they're really trying to get. Okay, now I
Yes,
get
that's
it.
right. So it's an environmental law that's been it's cloaked as an environmental law, but it's really effectively a subsidy for Lyft.
Wow.
And probably Uber as well.
Interesting.
But Lyft is the company behind this.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Prop 31, which is the last of our propositions, this is the confusing one because it's a referendum. So it's a referendum on on a law that was passed in 2020 that prohibited the sale of flavored tobacco in California.
Okay.
So I'm going to make sure I get this right. All right. So if you approve this, if you vote yes, then the state law takes effect and flavored tobacco would be prohibited if a majority of voters support it. If a majority of voters don't support it, vote no on Prop 31, then the law would not take effect, and Prop 31, so essentially, a yes vote makes it so that flavored tobacco products are illegal. A no vote would keep flavored tobacco products legal.
What's the problem with flavored tobacco as opposed to other regular tobacco? I'm trying to figure that out.
It's a great question. I'm not an expert in this area, but my understanding is that flavored tobacco appeals more to kids, to young adults,
so we'll stop
and
smoking
that
it.
some people are more addicted to flavored tobacco products. I think
all products, so that includes vaping as well?
yes, flavored tobacco vaping products.
Got it.
Absolutely, and that's really the target. So the other thing that I think is very confusing about this, and again, it's not sort of directly my area of law. It's something I could learn about, but it's not something that I've ever dived into. The FDA, at the federal level, also has a bunch of restrictions on flavored tobacco, and I think they're basically going to ban it at a national level, including menthol, which is the biggest category of flavored tobacco, soon at the federal level. So this law may be irrelevant anyway if the feds end up getting that regulation through. I believe that's been proposed, but I don't think it's finalized for menthol yet. But everything else is already banned.
So the goal is that would stop people from smoking in general, or
That's the theory.
but they are getting a lot of taxes off that, so
Yes.
because that's heavily taxed tobacco
And
products.
there's also some question as to whether it really does any good because it may push people to black market flavorings.
Exactly. There we go to that, and then,
Yeah.
then we don't get the taxes at all going to our.
Plus, black market tobacco products often have other kinds of additives to them, and those are really the dangerous ones.
They're the
When you
confusing
hear about
ones, yeah.
people who have issues with vaping, admittedly, it's not usually tobacco products, it's usually a cannabis-derived product, but it's not legal cannabis-derived products or legal tobacco products that are driving people into the hospital with, weird reactions. It's black market products that are driving them there because they have things that you shouldn't be inhaling. And that's the problem with making anything black market is that people will still go get it if they're addicted.
So we're legalizing marijuana for the most part, but we're
Yes.
taking away flavored tobacco.
Yes,
that's the
right.
deal. Okay,
That's right. That's California.
So
in a
where do we
nutshell.
stand? Where do you stand on that?
I'm very torn about it because I personally am very anti-tobacco. It kills a lot of people, has very little redeeming social value.
Right.
But on the other hand, I do think that this will drive a lot of people to black market purchases, particularly of menthol cigarettes, which is more addictive even than regular cigarettes.
Right.
And, they'll do black market vaping, and vaping in general does actually help people help people get off of cigarettes and reduce nicotine consumption. So eliminating flavored tobacco probably makes it so less people vape and more people smoke cigarettes, which probably results in more people dying. So I think it's a hard, it's a hard decision to make, right? And I don't really know how it all should shake out. I think it's probably fair to say that you will have less kids and young adults starting smoking without the flavored tobacco, but I don't know in aggregate
But
whether
it could
it's
drive
better.
them to weed, which I don't know. Now
Yes,
we're
it
all
probably
for
will.
weed. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know what we're for anymore.
Yeah, in California, you have to be 18 to get cannabis too, or sorry, 21 to get legal cannabis too. So it's not, it's not any different really than tobacco currently, but.
Well, yeah, but tobacco you can't get until you're 18 legally.
Yeah, and it would be weird.
So-
I think that we'll be in a situation if this proposition passes, if Prop 31 passes, that you can have flavored cannabis products and not flavored tobacco products.
Wow.
I mean, tobacco might actually be worse for you, in fairness, but it is still a strange situation. It's not something that you would have expected
complex.
10 years ago.
And I'm a personal trainer with all kinds of things, so I understand the tornness about really, no, I get it. Wow.
And it's not as if people will stop being addicted overnight. I mean, you know, people will buy cigarettes. They will buy
We're never going to
flavored.
completely get rid of cigarettes.
Yeah, I mean, if we think that passing a law will get rid of people smoking menthol cigarettes, we're deluding ourselves. They will absolutely buy them and get them somewhere else.
And what's your specialty in law? It's business law, right?
That's right. So I'm a business lawyer. I like politics and policy, so I follow them closely, but I'm a business lawyer. So
And you have small businesses, right, too?
I'm a solo practitioner. So I used to be part of a firm here in Fresno, but
So anybody that you want to
yeah,
influence
I'm the
hire
only one who
you.
makes decisions about who I hire as a client, and
Right.
yeah, so I'm it.
Are you available for people that want to start a business that have some business questions? Can they pay you for a one-off? Like if I want to start a business and if I want to start a cannabis business, can I just like borrow your head for 2 hours and say I want to pay you because I want to know everything about this, that, and the
Yes,
other?
and typically I don't. If I take someone on as a client, I actually wouldn't normally charge for an initial consultation of up to an hour. That's just usually the way that I like to do things. And
Gosh,
for
if I was
startups,
going to start a business, talking to you, I think I would have to, you'd have to charge me something. I can go for hours.
well, I mean, you're not going to start a business in an hour. Is
Right,
the real
yeah.
truth
So
of it,
you'd
right?
have to-
So
yeah.
you know, I can kind of lay out what you need to expect and
Right.
what steps you need to take. But it's going to take me more than an hour's worth of work for me
No,
to
and
start a
that's
business. It would take
great.
you much more than an hour.
But it's good that you're available for that because I know everyone's starting it, and then I'm always telling people ask me because I've had a successful business before. And I'm always like, why don't you talk to somebody? You know what I mean? Because not every business is so complex as you know
Yes.
you see, and it's like wow. So
And people really should understand, you know, if they're going to have a business, and it's the kind of business where they can form an LLC or a corporation, that they are really advantaged if they do so. You know, just protection from liability makes such a big difference. You can lose everything if you
it's amazing.
don't have that, right? So I mean, people don't, I think, appreciate the absolute genius of the corporation. Before the corporation, if you went into business, you risked everything that you owned in that business venture, and it made it very risky to get into a new business. But with a corporation, you can put in a certain amount of money and risk that, and almost all the time, that's all that you can lose. And that makes such a huge difference in the willingness of people to take risk and to start new businesses that you know, some people in the economics world think that it's as important as the invention of the factory for our current development. So if you want to start a new business, if you aren't the kind of licensed business like, frankly, me, where it doesn't really make much difference whether I have a corporation or not, you should get out there, and if you're going to start your business, make sure that you get an LLC formed or you get a corporation formed. You can even do it online. You will get very bad legal documents that you don't want to use long term, but in the short term, they can even do that kind of filing for you, although I certainly would recommend doing it right the first time.
And where can
going through a
people
legal
contact you if
professional.
they want to do this? So they want to hire you or talk to you about starting a business. Where do they contact you? Do you have a number or a website?
Yes, so you can give me a call at 559-221, I'm sorry, 559-250-9219.
Is that the number I have for you?
Yes,
Okay,
it
we're
is.
gonna okay,
It
just
is.
making sure.
Yeah.
I don't be giving out people a different. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can also email me at jared.gordon@jaredgordonlaw.com. Those are both straightforward ways to reach me. And I would be happy to talk to you if you have a startup company that you want to start, whether it's a software company or a social media company or an agricultural technology company. I've helped businesses in all of those spaces many different times and been in-house counsel for big, fast-growing online advertising companies, and done everything from those 100+ people companies, representing them, to people who are starting their company and they're the only employee and they're the first person, and just trying to figure out even how to write a business plan. I can help you at all those different stages.
That is so awesome. Everyone needs somebody like you.
Well, I hope so.
Thank you so much for coming on my show today.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for having me, Sparkle.
Thank you for coming today. So I want to hear about the first annual Central Valley Jazz and R&B Festival because I'm excited about this.
Yes.
Raj?
Well, this festival has a takeoff of the old Coons Ranch when we had a festival there. Give it about 10, 15 years ago, maybe more, maybe a little less. But it was such a wonderful place to go and spend your time for the spring or midsummer that we had going on at that time. And we would just be out there enjoying ourselves until the property was sold. And once the property was sold, the jazz enthusiasts had nowhere to go and enjoy themselves with jazz being presented to them. So fast forward to years later, my partner and I got together with another partner that we have, DJ Orderly, and we decided to put on a jazz festival and to make it the first annual jazz festival of many so that we'd have somewhere to go in the Central Valley and bring people from the LA area, from the Bay Area, from the coast to come into our valley to bring finance into our communities and so that we could give back to battered women and domestic violence.
I love that. So where'd you guys get the idea to help these organizations?
Well, one thing, my daughter was battered. So after that, it was like, it'd be a good idea to get some education into the community because here in the community, we have the highest per capita call of domestic violence calls.
Really?
Yes. And
Wow.
Yeah, and it's the most in at least California. It may be the nation.
No way.
And
Okay.
1 in 3 women are battered. Okay, so it's the only way we can stop this. I can't stop all of it, but maybe we can save someone, you know, to let women know and some men also know you
Right.
don't have to stay in it, you know.
So where was your daughter helped by any of the resources that were here?
No, because she wasn't here.
Oh, okay.
What
So-
really,
okay, got
what really hurt me, I was on the phone with her. You
Oh,
know,
man.
And it's like trying to extinguish that. It was, you know, it was kind of hard.
So which ones did you get involved with? Like which shelters are we going to help?
Well, we're going to help. I don't know if you heard Breaking Chains.
Yes.
Okay, so Breaking Chains.
And I am always trying to get them on here, so if you can like give that message, it was like we'll go through this. I don't do hoops, so someone could call me
Right.
and like we'll set it up and bada bing, bada boom. So
Right,
tell
right.
them,
to get over here.
yes, tell them to
Okay,
get over here. So
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll do. And then we were looking to do something with Marjorie Mason also.
Love that.
You know, that's what we're trying to, you know, we had focus on doing. And, you know, then we wanted to set it up so next year we would bring even more talent to the festival.
I love that. No, of course, it'll start getting a name for itself. And
For
then,
real, yeah. So,
okay, so we're gonna do beer, wine, cigars,
yes, food.
and you do have the trucks. If someone wants to be a vendor there, should they contact you? Or you reach out to
Yes.
someone. We could all like. Okay, so the
Yes.
local wineries, local breweries need to contact you guys.
Correct.
Should we contact you on Facebook, Instagram? Are you gonna give out your personal number?
They can have my personal number.
We
It's
do some
right on there.
People
It's
have
on there.
lately on the show. Okay, so it's 559-273-5374 if you guys want to be a vendor of any sort. Because I know a lot of food vendors and wineries, breweries,
Right.
and I love that you're keeping it so local.
Right.
The LA talent with the local.
Yeah, of course. You know, but we're also having local talent that is going to
Be performing.
with us.
Wow, that's really cool. So how did you get these, the entertainment?
Well, some of them came through. I have a nephew that does a lot of events in San Antonio, Texas, and in New Orleans and Atlanta.
Love that.
So I called him, and he said, "Well, what do you want? Who you think you can handle right now?" I said, "I don't know, nephew. Let me know what you have." You know.
Right.
So he came up with Jazz in Pink.
Yeah.
And he said, "You know, this is a guy, Mike, and he's a really good guy, and he'll work with you." I said, okay. So we've been working with them, you know, and we're going to most likely bring them back next year also.
Yeah, you should tell them a little bit about, you know, Jazz
Oh,
and Pink.
Jazz
and
and
how
Pink.
That group, yeah.
Okay, Jazz and Pink is a group of all ladies that actually they promote about or they
Played with. Yeah.
well they do breast cancer. They're supporting breast cancer.
Okay.
And
Oh,
they
now
played.
I get the name.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And so they played. All of them played with like phenomenal groups. Some of them Michael Jackson, some of them Prince, some of them Charlie Wilson, some of them just played all these different places, and they're like amazing. So that's where they came from, and they came together to be such a good,
Collaboration.
yeah, a good, you know,
yeah, coming together.
I love
talent.
that. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
talent, yeah. To form the group.
So, okay, and then tell us about some of the other guests that we're going to have on there as well.
Okay, so let's see who we have here. Nikki J. Crawford, another LA talent.
All right, is it all females?
No, but it's just that when you start looking at from here back are females or to the front, because
Okay.
Jazz and Pink, Nikki J. Crawford, and Hope, the King's Project.
Yeah, she's local.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's local.
those are women groups, but Jazz Asylum and Embroidery is
They're men. Okay.
yeah, they're men groups. And we have another group that is coming in, Central Valley Jazz. What is it? Yes, a Central Valley Jazz.
I love that because I remember those days at Coons Run, and I actually got together like when I was a kid. My dad was a big jazz fan, and so I know we need to bring that back big time, especially just to be outside. Wait, you got to tell our audience who you told me earlier about the event, about waking up Saturday. Come on, you played it so well. This is gonna be a Saturday, November 5th, which I'm gonna go with a date.
All right.
So we'll see.
Listen, let me explain this to you. So, after you have worked all week long and you're tired and you want a nice break, you get to get off at 5 o'clock. You get to go home, get in your bubble bath, sit back and chill, have your dinner, take your showers, whatever you're going to do, and go to bed. Wake up at 9 o'clock, eat your breakfast, and then you can head over to the Jazz Festival because the gates open at 11. But guess what? They don't close till 11. And after they close, then you can go home and rest. You don't have to go to work the next morning.
right.
It's going to be great. You get to eat great food, have great drinks,
Smoke
listen to
cigars.
great music, and have some cigars.
Yeah, exactly.
That's gonna be fun. I love that.
That's per sparkle. Okay?
I could never say it like that. That was amazing. But that's a great day.
Yes.
And a great thing. It's November 5th, so it's not going to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not going to be cooking out there.
It's not. Yeah, it's going to be
Well, we're
great
going to be
weather.
cooking because it's going to be hot.
Is there a
Not-
dress code?
Yes, there's a dress code. What you want to wear? That's your dress code.
Come on, class. No shorts, guys.
Okay. No, we really don't have a dress code. You wear what you want to wear,
But
whatever
it's
you're
jazz,
comfortable. But
guys.
it's
Come on.
jazz.
Come on.
It's jazz.
You're out,
We have
you're
cigars
outdoors.
and wine. Let's have fun.
Yes, you're outdoors. Just kick it. You know, come in some sandals. You know, some nice little toes out and everything. You know, that's what you do.
That's right.
You have a great time.
That sounds fantastic. Okay, so this is a lot of work to get this together, to get this going for the first event.
Yes.
What do you need from the community like us? What do you need our help with?
Oh, my God. I need you guys to come and support because it's for us all. It's not a me thing, it's a us thing.
Is there a limit to how many people can get? How many tickets are there?
Well, we can host up to upwards of 10,000.
Oh, so there's no limit.
Yeah,
We'll get that. We're pretty good.
Yeah, we're pretty good, but after 10,000, then it's gonna get real tight because
No, we'll be good. We can do that.
yeah.
So if we all buy tickets, and then is there a level of tickets, or it's like a
Yes,
general admission?
there's a level.
We don't go over prices on the show, but everything else you can say.
Okay, everything else. We have what is called VIP tables.
Ooh. So we get like bottle service, like wine bottle service.
That's, yes.
You will get a couple bottles of wine set on the table, and then we have VIP chairs. Well, the VIP tables and the VIP chairs are set up under the canopy on the concrete slab. So the VIP chairs are right behind the VIP tables, but the tables are roped off. So you'll be in front of the stage just behind the tables. But there's not a bad seat in the house.
Yep.
Okay, because the stage sits so high, every seat in the house is going to be great. Even the general pop is going to be great.
I love that.
And one other thing, Sparkle, like general admission people, they bring their own chairs and all that stuff. So, I would encourage people to go online and get some good seating chairs, the ones that can rock back and forth and all that, like, so you can be real comfortable with your date or whoever you want to bring and everything out there. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And so for those, so when we buy the tickets at the website, which is www.centralvalleyjazzrbfestival.com.
Yes. Yeah, right there.
Okay, so that's where we purchase the tickets from. And then we have your number, so if anyone can't handle that.
And if anyone wants to call the two of us, we have tickets available ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah.
Yeah, and then we got some good sponsors on there too that have really got behind it and everything too.
Right.
I don't know if you see those on there, Sparkle, the different
Oh,
sponsors.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so crazy. So we've had Heartbeat Boxing on here before,
Yeah.
Really?
and that's the first thing I thought about when you said battered women, because I know about the
he's-
Ruby's ring.
yep,
and these,
Gilbert.
I'm really
Right.
good friends with Gilbert, so I've
Yes,
heard that
Gilbert's a
story.
Yeah,
great
he's
guy.
going to be speaking.
Yes.
He'll be speaking there and everything, and we partnered up with him and to get the word out. And
I
everything
love
like
that.
Yeah, so we got some really good sponsors.
And
already.
then we have Mr. Frank Caglia. He's the owner of Electric Motor Shop, and he's a very big, prominent guy in the community, and he does a lot. Yeah, and I went in and spoke to him, and he was like,
No hesitation.
can't wait to help. I can't wait to see what you're going to do and everything. He said, I'm appreciative that you're giving back to the community. And I said, I appreciate him, because he was the very first one to open the door and sponsor us.
Yeah.
And can people still be a sponsor if they want
Yes.
to?
Yes.
Okay, so call for sponsorship.
Yes.
Yep.
Sponsorship for vendors, donations, all that.
So, and is this all ages?
Yes.
So you just get like a wristband if you want
Yeah.
alcohol.
Right.
Okay. Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll make sure that kids don't be drinking out there. Can't have that.
Well, I'm glad, because like I said, I used to go when I was a kid. That's why I remember that it was so long ago, and it was a really fun event.
Yes, it was, and that's what I remember it being just packed out, and that's what I want this to be, just packed out. Just pack it out and let the Central Valley know, hey, we're back. We're back. Jazz is back for you, because in Fresno, I guess, is somewhere around 1 or 2 million people in this Central Valley, at least, and we're asking that a fraction of the people come out.
Right. No, and I mean, it's important because everything else, I lived in LA for 15 years and then moved back. I'm like part of old Fresno, new Fresno. And I saw everything grew, the arts grew, this, that, and the other. And then it's some things just never left and never came back. And jazz was one of those things.
Right.
Because now we have art up, but we don't have jazz. So it's I'm so glad that you guys are doing this. This is long needed.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, something else is happening this month, the end of the month. We're going to be on iHeartRadio. We're going to be on the Hispanic channel, the country channel, and what is the
I know
think
it's 3 different stations,
I believe
but
it's the
promoting the
Right.
jazz event and everything. The Central Jazz
But
event.
to hear it, listen, it's great. It is great. I mean, I love the commercial that they've done. It's exciting.
I'm really excited about this. Well, thank you guys for getting together and doing this. I know this is a lot of work to put on.
It is.
To put this on, and then and it's just, you guys are like pretty much a two-man show. I know you guys have help, but it's a two-man show right now.
Yeah, as far as promoting.
Yeah, the promoting part is
It's us.
the two of us,
Two of us,
but
we got
our
team.
partner, he's like hard at work at the venue, making sure everything is together. You know.
So where is this again? Where's the venue?
It's,
Yeah, if you could say that.
13
You see the address right there?
851.
Yeah, right there. Go up a little bit. Can I do it right there? Yeah.
13851 Avenue 412, Arosa, California.
Arosi. So where's
Yeah,
that?
it's about 30 minutes, a 30-minute drive from Fresno.
Arosi. What's Arosi by? I've heard of it, but
It's
What's the
just
closest
past Dinuba.
okay, that way. Perfect.
Right,
okay.
south.
South.
Yes,
Okay, I got it.
straight shot.
So this is this is gonna be like outside and all nice, all
yeah.
decked out. So you guys are already getting ready, the venue ready and everything for it?
Yes.
Yes. And there's pictures and things on the website and stuff
Oh
like
my
that.
gosh.
so you
I
can
can't
see.
I can't pull out a phone and show
This
you
is
different
so
things.
exciting.
Yeah,
I
it
am
really is.
so excited about
Yeah,
this.
thank you.
Can't wait to have you guys out there, enjoying the festivities, and then we do it again next year.
Yep.
But we make this happen and get everything together so that everyone enjoys themselves. We have armed securities. We have, plenty of parking. It's just going to be great.
I am so excited. Thank you guys for coming to the show. Thank you. I will be there for sure.
Good,
Oh,
good.
yes.
And I'll probably come with an entourage. I know a lot of
Okay,
people that will be
okay.
all about this right now. Like Melissa, I know if you're watching, you're gonna get your
Come on,
tickets
Melissa.
right now.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so
Yeah,
much.
thank you for having us.
Thank you so very much
Appreciate
for
you.
having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on Everything Sparkle. It's been a year and a half since I had you on.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's been a little while.
2 years. Okay, so we talked about so many interesting things last night. It was mainly the Titanic, all they had going on with that. Just do a little recap for our viewers.
Not a problem. I'm a resident author and Titanic historian in the South Florida area. I've written 37 books. I've had 2 screenplays optioned and produced. On the Titanic front, I've devoted 42 years of research into the ship. Was friends with the last 4 survivors and also friends with a lot of members of the expedition dive teams.
Is everyone passed away that was from that? They're all dead right now, right? Because it's
The survivors have all passed,
over 100
yes.
years old. Okay. No one lived that long, but so even like the last baby.
Yeah, the last one passed in 2009. So
It's still pretty recent. Wow. So, okay, what have you done since? You just never stop. You're always doing so much. Tell us what you've been up to lately.
Well, lately, I have one of my little side projects, which has been one of my pride of joy, to say the least, is a fantasy series that I've been working on since high school.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, you could say that again. So, but I like to think that like champagne, that this is getting better with age. So, but again, just kind of me being myself. This is not your typical fantasy series like what you would expect. This is not Game of Thrones or anything to that effect. Everything within the manuscript is actually inspired by my passion for history and mythology, to a point where a majority of the tactics that are used were actually based off of actual military tactics that I had learned about both through my own research and also interviewing veterans. And so, on top of that, even some of the characters themselves are actually after people that have made a considerable impact in my life.
So what's the connection with what's the fantasy part? Because this all sounds real right now.
Well, the fantasy part comes into play is where I kind of blend in with the mythology. So in this case, it's a world that's been divided by a civil war for over 10,000 years. And
Are we in the future?
no, in the past.
Wow. Okay.
And so in this case, all the inhabitants have their own individual kingdoms and their own warlords. There's actually a full race that is known as Animals. It's a play on the word of animal. And physically, if you are familiar with Egyptian mythology, that's where a majority of them look like. They come from the Egyptian pantheon. So, you have the Hawk people living in the northern part up in the mountains. You have the land dwellers in the jungles, and then you have the sea folk and surrounding the oceans around the continent itself. And then on the continent itself, it's still divided between land dweller, human, and everything else in between with all these walls. And so basically what it boils down to is that even if you reach your hand across the wall, that's considered a sign of aggression, which could lead to a full-out attack. So everybody is constantly walking on eggshells.
Oh my goodness. This is really so this kind of reminds me, and this is completely different than anything I've ever heard. That just a little bit, it's like feel a little bit like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe meets the Hunger Games. But like the Hunger Games back, it's like, instead of the Hunger Games being the future, this is like in the past. So I'm getting a little bit of those vibes, but this is really different than anything.
Thank you. And it's been a very fun experience along the way too. I mean, in a lot of ways, the story had picked up on its own, a life of its own. The name of the book is called The Legend of Graham How to Clare, and it's actually named after two mythical swords, one from French history and also one from Norse history. But when the secret behind it, though, which is where we get to the real nitty gritty of it, is that once you start removing the dragons, the mythology, and everything else, and the actual heart of the story is actually me experiencing high school as a 16-year-old in the first story itself.
Wow.
So, and it's literally just one of those cases where what happened was when I was a freshman in high school back in 1991, for those of a younger generation, this was when MTV was playing music and things like that. But basically, I got bored in class. And so there was a gentleman sitting diagonal from me named Rodrigo Negrera. And he was actually sitting there and he was drawing skulls on his notebook. So I tilted my desk over at an angle and I was like, "Do you know how to draw a minotaur?" And he kind of looked at me for a minute and, just kind of, "There you go."
Oh my.
And so, I mean, by the time the class finished, I already had the first story outlined. So, during the course of the first day of school, I was sitting there putting together this mythical world.
During high school, did you feel like you were walking on eggshells?
In a lot of ways, yes. Because I'll be the first one to admit I was more the geek than anything else. So, even though I had a lot of friends, I was social with pretty much every clique that you can imagine. I kind of just did my own thing, and so. Obviously, if you saw me hanging out at one of the football games, I was there because one of my buddies was on the team. But don't ask me any trivia about what's going on the field because I'd have no clue what you're talking about.
That's so funny. So this is kind of like that. How was it preparing for this book? Because I know you're a historian. So how much obligation did you feel to actually stay true to history? But then again, it's your own world, so you could do whatever you want. Like what was the balance in that?
Well, I basically what I did was I just took every factor of history that I was found to be fascinating to begin with, and I just started to build characters and scenarios with it. And so, it kind of made for a fun advantage in a lot of ways. Like, for example, at the end of the first story, if you were to remove the catapults and a few of the demons and the knights on horseback, you would actually be looking at the third day of Battle of Gettysburg with Pickett's charge of the open field. So, It was just a matter of kind of tweaking and toying around with the technology more than anything else. So, and one of the things that I've always considered to be a running joke behind the whole story of the series itself, and I'd kind of mentioned, I know when we spoke earlier, I did promise I was going to share this with you on the air, and so I think this is what you would appreciate. The story itself was actually first published in my school's literary magazine alongside my friend Rhodey's drawings. And within a week of the publication, I ended up getting paid to see the school psychologist because unfortunately there were a lot of scenes and a lot of themes that were in there that were not your typical teenage writing. And so during the course of that first week, it kind of set the foundation for what became a 4-year endeavor. Because every time that I would write more into the series, I was always called to see the school psychologist. And we had the same debate each time because I told him, I was like, look, I'm a normal guy. I'm not sacrificing rabbits or anything like that. This is all coming from history books, and I can show you exactly what books I use. They're sitting in the school library upstairs. They're on this shelf, and this shelf. If you're concerned about us reading it, why are you supplying it for us in the first place?
I bet they were very stumped because you have you have the intellectual banter that I'm sure kind of stunned them. So.
Oh, yes.
They're like,
Yeah.
What the heck? Okay, we can't really argue with this. So what do? We better let them keep writing it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I mean, lo and behold, my classmates were enjoying it. My other friend Paul, wasn't a fan of reading the story, but he liked the illustrations. So he had a garage band at the time. So they actually made a soundtrack based off of the series. So they would, yeah.
Wow.
So it literally picked up a whole life all on its own. And I was just absolutely flabbergasted by it.
So this is a book that's going to have illustrations in it throughout the whole book.
There may be a few for display, but no, the book itself is just the full, straight, bare bones story.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was kind of confused. That's really cool, though. Okay, so where can we purchase this? When's it coming out? Is it out?
It's right now available online through KMP Entertainment, and also going to be in retailers here in the next coming weeks by the fall.
That is so cool. Okay, so we're on book 1 right now.
Yes.
So how much of this series have you foresaw that you wanted to do?
Well, believe it or not, the whole series entails 6 volumes.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, but what's funny was I never really thought about this after graduation. So it's one of those cases where when I went to my high school reunion, our 10-year reunion, I had my first book already published. Ironically enough, it was my high school memoirs. So I'm walking around, I'm like, hey guys, check it out. You were right. I'm a published author finally. And they're like, yeah, okay, well, we do that part. Listen, let's talk about that fantasy series.
Okay, so how many of these people actually made it into these books? Did you write about your classmates?
Oh, yes. Yeah, very much so.
Oh, my goodness. I wonder what they thought about that.
Oh, some of them really got a kick out of it. Like one in particular, he's in a future volume. His real name is Anthony Magic Capra, and his family actually ran a tailoring business. So he was always extremely studious coming into school on a daily basis. So, I ended up creating a knight for him in the story named Carpe Magia, which is a play on of his last name.
That's so funny. So so now they're knighted in the books. I'm sure they're royalty now, so I'm sure they enjoy that.
Oh, without a doubt, they do.
So what's the deal? So we're gonna get a book a year. How long is this gonna stretch? What's the pressure on banging out these books?
Well, the first volume's already out. probably next year I'm going to have to sit down and start editing and prepping the second one. So we might do a book a year. One of the things that I'm right now doing is actually reverse engineering all of them into scripts. And we're going to actually go ahead and try to shop it around to the studios here and, see if we can take it to another level entirely.
Wow. That's really exciting. How do you feel about that? I mean, I know you're KMP, with KMP, right? They're into doing that. They into that kind of media. How do you feel about getting into that? Because that's kind of like out of your wheelhouse.
Oh, it is. But ironically enough, when back in the day, we actually all were joking about it at one point, and I still have like little notepads on the index cards of actors that I think would look great for the characters and things like that. And we, like I said, we did it over like one night over spring break, and it was like just pizza, movies, and soda, and we're like, yeah, we're going to have a full line of action figures like Star Wars, and then we're going to go out, we're going to do a world tour, and we're going to have George Lucas direct this, and then we're going to be good to go. Then we're going to be retired by we're 40.
Hey, if you get that out quick enough, you might have a shot at getting some of these actors and George Lucas.
That's true. That's very true. I hit the 40 retirement, unfortunately, but that's okay. Who wants to retire these days?
Oh, I can't see you ever retiring. You're going to write till you die. I know how you are.
Exactly.
But this is, what I like about this? So I love that you're going back from a high school concept, because that's probably when your creative juices were most flowing. You were able to really create something really cool before you got just older and more jaded. I love that you're going back to that concept. So I bet it's going to be really good, and it's going to like really get a lot of audiences.
Thank you.
Do you feel that way, like kind of going back into that it's like, okay, you kept that like imagination alive and everything? I think people resonate with that. Did you feel like that when you went back into it, that you just kind of pick up where you left off?
In a lot of ways, yeah. And at one point, one of the things that made it real funny, because when a fun little, I'm going to actually give you a little tidbit into my lifestyle as a writer. Believe it or not, I'm actually a very visual writer. So if it's a character that I'm developing, I'll actually ask her a photograph of someone. If it's a friend of mine or something like that I could just use as like a source material.
Nice.
So, understandably, building like some of the epic battle sequences and things like that required investing in a lot of action figures. So, understandably, it was always fun, hitting the stores, and the cashier's like, so, wow, I think your son's gonna have fun with the with all these.
Never mind.
Exactly. I'm like, no, I'm an author. These are mine. But yes, I'm equally happy. So's my inner 6-year-old, but that's not the point.
No, this is so cool. Okay, so that's what else you got going on? I know you're always on all that stuff. How is it going with the Titanic? Do you guys meet every year to talk about what's going on?
Well, on the Titanic front, everything's going very well. In fact, my one friend, Bill Willard, who actually worked on the 1998 expedition, he had the opportunity this past week to be at the Luxor in Las Vegas, which is where what's called the Big Piece is housed. That's the only piece of the ship that was raised. And Bill was actually one of the people involved in that expedition. So he was able to do a book signing for his own book, which was called Our Story. And what he did was, in his case, he actually collected interviews from everyone else on that expedition and compiled it into one book. So everyone that was involved had their own aspect and observation from that particular moment.
Wow, that's so cool. So that's where people should go if they want to like have any reminiscence of the Titanic, is to the Luxor in Vegas.
Oh yes, yeah. Or if you're in the East Coast, you can come down to Orlando. That's where the other Artifacts exhibition is, and that's also a permanent attraction on International Drive.
Wow. Okay, so where do we follow you to see what's going on?
Well, you can find me on Facebook under The Legend of Graham How to Claire, and also under William Brower. Sundays, 8 o'clock on the West Coast, you could find me on blogtalkradio.com/Francie on Francie and Friends. And pretty much almost anywhere and everywhere these days. That's the joy of social media.
And we could go watch your show too on the West Coast.
Yes.
Yeah. Right on. That's what we got. Do you have a website, or it's all pretty much Facebook based?
For right now, it's all Facebook. I'm going to be opening up my own personal site here in the next couple months, and it's also going to feature an online store. So kind of following through on the irony of things, I think a lot of ways we had to wait for technology to catch up to the concept. So, I am going to be selling some T-shirts and posters and, possibly action figures. I've been talking to some 3D printing companies, looking into the possibility of it. So, it's just funny to see how one's dream and the concept from years back, it's actually come through into fruition like this. So
I love that. That is so cool. One last question. I've been wondering this when you talked about the book. What do people do for fun in that world? Because everyone's walking on eggshells. There's a civil war. Is there what's the fun part? What do they do for fun?
Well, for the fun part, I actually incorporated 2 characters that are literally fish out of water in a lot of ways. One is actually the Minotaur Barius. He's actually the last of his kind. And in one of the stories, he gets introduced to a local drink called Dragon Stout, which he's not familiar with. And, let's just say that he gets hammered and spends about 2 or 3 chapters dancing around the other characters, completely oblivious to what's going on, and, being an obnoxious drunk. So, old-fashioned, way of passing time. You're just going to drink.
Right. Well, that seems like a lot of fun. I can't wait to read this. This is really exciting because I wish you the best of luck. And you got to come on every year, and we got to pitch the next book, William.
You have a deal, Sparkle, and next year I'll even try to get hitchhike out west, and we'll do it in person.
And then I could be doing this in a T-shirt of your characters.
I would be honored.
I would be too. Thank you so much, William.
Thank you as well. I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Felt right in the moment, felt right in the summertime. It felt right drinking cherry wine with you. Just wanted to own it, just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now it's such a mess here, oh, we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you. Now I must confess here, oh, I must confess, dear, don't think I'm in love with you. Winter is coming and I don't know what to do, and there's no more use in running, no more running to you. And I don't want your loving, I don't wanna be just friends, knowing all this time we were playing pretend.
It's a mystery.